This is the taxi stand that we're talking about here. It's one of 12 the city has put up all over downtown. And when I say luxury, I mean this piece of jewelry is worth just over $185,000. There are fire crews up there trying to bring that scaffolding down. As we've heard, there's a lot of speculation that Barb Higgins' next move is a run for the mayor's chair. At 5:30, when we did the same experiment, it was 56.6 degrees Celsius. Standing on the land we're talking about here, and also included is this empty public housing complex. What colors do you like the most?
I should get one.
The yellow. Now there are children inside this house, and she says that the children are absolutely devastated that they've lost a chica. The idea is to teach her obedience so she becomes more manageable. And if it is, Calgarians could see more taxi stands like this one over the next year. James Hoth can now give his family the life he has. He's waited for years to do that.
I told them, just be patient. Finally, you will be coming.
Hoth's 3 brothers, their wives, and children are finally in Canada. Smiling like this amongst strangers is not customary for the Southern Sudanese, but this is how momentous a day it is.
Very happy for seeing Canada.
In 1983, the civil war in southern Sudan forced them to flee their country. They were living in an Ethiopian refugee camp similar to this one, with 30,000 others. Little food, no running water, limited security. Today, their first real house with windows and walls.
Oh, it's best cold. It is very cold.
But it's a good cold. Neil Guy and his family are learning a new way to live.
Life in Africa was not good like this.
It's why James Hoth fought to get everyone here. He knows what camp life is like. Hoth lived in one for 20 years himself. After getting refugee status, he wanted to bring his family here, but couldn't afford to sponsor them.
The only thing I do, I just send them money every month, so to keep them going.
But thanks to Hoth's church and the congregation, they raised enough money to sponsor all 12 members of the family. They rented this house, furnished it, and will financially support everyone for 1 year.
You can take a shower right there, and then the kid can take the bath here. So you can wash your around here. This is the toilet.
So this one's your bedroom?
Okay.
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 Several members of the family will begin looking for work soon. Neil Guy has big plans for an IT job here in Canada one day. But first, he'll finish the university classes he started many years ago.
My future just is to follow my education and work hard.
But now it's about baby steps for the whole family. Sonya Denton, CBC News, Calgary. Jackie Nicholson and her husband are seeing the damage for the first time.
All of our stuff is in there.
They were in Edmonton when the fire started, only learning the news by phone. They had just moved into the rental house. They have no tenant's insurance and have a baby on the way.
How do you feel seeing this? 3 houses.
I don't know.
At 2:30 this morning, flames and smoke changed lives. Shalane Thompson owned this house and operated a day home there. Thompson didn't want to speak on camera but says friends across the street woke her up and kicked in the door to help get her and her family to safety. Norman Faridi says his house across the street was in jeopardy. From his window, he could see the flames shooting toward him. He says they were coming from the garage. He called 911, grabbed his family and an emergency bag and ran to safety.
Didn't take much time. The fire went all over the house. By the time we called the 911 took 5 to 10 minutes time.
Neighbors say that the fire was so hot that if you take a look over here, right across the street, it melted the vinyl siding. Neighbors say about 5 adults lived in the home where the fire started. People say they often saw a large amount of building materials stored in the garage. Not only one house destroyed, but 3 Peg Benson says it's hard to believe.
The houses are so close together, and with vinyl siding, you see this on the news, but you never expect it to happen to you.
No one was hurt in the fire, and investigators are working to determine the cause and the extent of all the damages. Sonya Denton, CBC News, Calgary. For a 9-year-old, small changes to a routine can feel like the end of the world.
It's really hard to not be able to play in the house. Like when it's stormy and rainy out there, there's nothing for us to really do.
For almost 2 months, this has been home. Mom, Dad, the 4 kids, and Patch. They were in the middle of renovations when the floodwater destroyed nearly everything.
If we had have lost our camper, we'd probably be living on our front lawn in tents because we have nowhere else to go.
Everything in the basement is destroyed. The structure is damaged, and the mold is taking over. And change is taking its toll.
Since the flood, they have no space that's their own, so there's 4 kids fighting for every inch of this camper.
And after 2 months, nearly everyone is nearing the breaking point.
Especially my son, I find him curled up. Curled up in his room, and sorry.
I don't really usually see her cry. It's like the first time I've ever seen her.
The Chatfields have been looking for a better temporary home. But for 6 people and a 75-pound dog, they believe even staying with friends is an imposition. So far, the Chatfields say they got $1,900 from the Alberta government. They say they don't know what it's for, and they don't know if any more is coming. And it's unlikely they'll see another dime. That's because they canceled their house insurance just days before the flood, planning to negotiate with a new insurance company. But according to the province, to qualify for provincial money to help rebuild, you have to have insurance.
The guy that we talked to in Edmonton told us your files are closed. Those files are done. That's it, everything's done. You've got your money.
In the meantime, the family is trying to keep some routines normal, going back into their ruined home once a week and tidying it, hoping they'll be able to return soon. Sonya Denton, CBC News, Irvine.